Threw over one of these Panama Jack hats. That was $2. I had a bread knife, a paring knife, and a scraper to work with the hive and the bars. And I bought the 3 pounds of bees. Came way early. We had a cold, wet spring, and without any foundation or anything in the hive, the bees didn't make it. They just didn't have enough resources to draw off to get going. So that's when Pete swooped in and rescued me.
I'm going to ask you a question. Did they draw wax on that cord you put in there like you wanted?
We're getting there. We're getting there fast. So basically the top bar is a trapezoid, upside down trapezoid. And the theory that I've read, not that I have infinite knowledge on top bar keeping, but somehow with the bee vision it's perceived as ground. The greater the angle, the more it looks like the floor, and they don't like to attach to the floor because it lets mites and stuff up. So we've had good luck with the 45 degree angle trapezoid, that one in the picture. Real steep, but for the work and what's involved, the 30 degree ones aren't that much more. They don't attach as much to the side, and once you've cut it a couple of times, they quit trying. It's like they understand it doesn't work. Hives 1 and 3 have the 30 degree angles, and my hive number 2 has a 45 degree side. The basic setup is usually 25 bars across the top is minimum. Most of the people who are putting stuff out on YouTube and that kind of thing, they go anywhere from 36 to 48 inches, depending on how big of a hive they have and the area that they're in. If you've got an area that has a good nectar flow and they can put away a lot of stuff, go big. If you've got a colder where it's a shorter kind of thing, you want to go small so that they don't have as much dead area to heat in the winter. We've set ours up. Some of the top bar people, they'll put the holes in the side, and we like the ones that have a front hole. The tendency that we're seeing is the bees, without an excluder, they'll put the brood and the queen stuff up front, and as they move back, they'll build just honey. Ours started off where they were building brood and honey because they had nothing. They were utilizing what they had, but as they got more bars of comb, they ended up where they had strictly brood and then more strictly honey bars.
Can you look that up? What is that solid on the bottom? Or is that...
Yeah. Some people put a screen on there.
Uh-huh.
We didn't put a screen on there. It was an added expense, and if we had to the point where we had to do something, a cordless drill out there and some screen, we could add it. We've already done some stuff with this cordless drill out there, making a couple additions and that kind of stuff. The ventilation holes in back, we don't know how many to put. If anybody has experience with this, we put a few to help with that wintertime condensation, because they don't have dead space above the hive. The way the top bars sit, if you don't have a elevated kind of cover, they don't have area for that hot, moist air to move up. And then we've used a follower board. I didn't start with one, but it seems that the bees are more capable of doing what we need them to do in a smaller space and sliding it as we go, as opposed to giving them the room they need and then having them fill it of their own accord. So this is Dad on Father's Day. That's what I gave him, and we were lucky enough to get a set of bees for him as well. And this is his about mid-season. They were actually pulling a lot of pollen off the things, and to where it was staying in the hive. This is without the cover on too. Across here we have a telescoping cover just like this one that goes across there, and it's a tight fit, so we end up with ventilation issues. If we need to in the summertime, when it got super hot, we could crack up the last one and rest the cover on it, and gave them a little space to work in from the back and kind of help some of that heat get out. We use the 1 5/8 on the top bars. We want to go bigger. I mean, the 1 5/8 works, but a little more space I think would be, I don't know if it's the hive or the bees or whatever, but the 1 5/8 seems just a little small that over time the comb seems to become off-center even with our guides on there. I talked about the angled angled walls to deter them from catching burr comb. On my first hive, we had a lot of issues. The guy that seems to be the guru on YouTube is a gentleman named McCartney Taylor, and he's a big proponent of string, wax string across the top. And what I found my bees were doing were they, like a toy, they were pulling it down and chewing it off before they actually needed to, before they had the comb there. So it was like they were cleaning the bars and then putting the comb. And if they don't have like the guide, they do get a little off, and the farther back in the hive they get, before you correct it, the more like the edges will curl in and you end up having to cut that, or if the wax is soft enough, kind of bending it back to keep them back on track. The other thing is with they start like in the corner. If they start up in the corner up here with their as they do out, this will tend to curve too, just because I think it's easier to heat than a square frame type style, like the corners of your house. You're never in there, yet they'll hold all the heat up in the upper part of the room. So even the ones that were doing well after they got the combs going straight, as they build new ones, they tended to bend that comb a little bit, trying to get it into that rounder kind of cluster. Or maybe it's like a subdivision with curvy streets. It's harder for strangers to find their way around. Whatever the issue is, we did work hard. This was Pete's idea initially, and this is what we ended up doing. The bars are actually, out of the nuke, were longer than my hive is wide. But we could do it this way. We ended up hanging the bars, like a top bar here, hang his frames in here like this, and we were able to let them get established, and then we had to do like a shake and cut, and it was not a good day. But all three the two hives we use the nuke on, they have taken to the top bars, and they're more doing the things. My one with the 45 is having a harder time than his that didn't have the nukes, because I think his went in there as a cluster, and they didn't have a plan, where I think Pete's, they were already oriented to the door, had gathered some stuff, and then I twisted them, and they got all cattywampus.